they could have traded him 2 months ago.
But they didn't want to trade him. They wanted to have him back.
Not my problem.
There's many. But it is. But you're making it your problem.
We'd rather be a vibes team than a winning team. That's what they're doing. We'd rather have great vibes than win football games.
You operate a lot in fear.
Okay,
and
but
getting a younger guy. No, you could be. You don't have to like that. But they have the 17th overall pick. So again, the point that I want to bring up, and I appreciate you having this discussion as well. The point that I want to bring up is where Cincinnati's locker room was, and you told me, and your response was you didn't care. But I'm just simply providing context as why it was important, why the Bengals chose and opted to play two of their top receivers and two of their better players versus what other teams around the league do, which is move on from their number two. The fact is Cincinnati didn't have anybody else to pay at that point in time. And we could talk about, well, they could go out there and sign Josh Sweat, but my counter to that could be they could draft a guy at the defensive position for the future at pick 17, which they're probably going to do. The fact of the matter is, Cincinnati made the best move that was in the Cincinnati Bengals' best interest. Their locker room was in a volatile state, right? They needed to sign a guy, number one, that was a true gamer for them, and also show the players in the locker room, if you perform here in Cincinnati, you will be properly compensated. But I think the part that we're leaving out of this is the Tee Higgins also wanted to be here in Cincinnati, which is why he made the agent change. That's the point that we're missing as well. The fact of the matter is, I see where you're coming from, and time will tell if the Bengals made the right decision or not. One thing I could tell you is, if you looked at the tweets by the players, if you looked at the overall response and how they came out in droves, and everybody was ecstatic for this, it tells you the type of player, right, that always put team first, never brought any drama, was a true locker room leader. It tells you what type of player Tee Higgins is and why everybody was excited about getting him back. I understand where you're coming from, Peter, as to, and how the Bengals could allocate those funds. And trust me, I've been on record saying, hey, the Cincinnati Bengals should attack the guard position a little bit different. I've been on record saying the Bengals need to modernize at how they structure contracts and guaranteeing money beyond year one, which they also did here with the Tee Higgins contract. The fact of the matter is, though, when you look at the Bengals roster, and you looked at who was in free agency, they brought back Tee Higgins because at this point, that was the best move for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Tee Higgins also wanted to be here.
But I have yet to have you explain to me why that is the case. Why was it the best move for Cincinnati? And the answer can't be they wanted to, or because he wanted to, or because the locker room wanted to, because that
Peter, you can't dismiss that. You can't dismiss that. You can't dismiss that. It's because you do not like the response.
Set a record for wide receiver money.
Peter, hear me out. Just because you don't like the response doesn't make it any less true. The fact of the matter is, I gave you reasoning.
That is not an explanation. That is not an explanation.
It is an explanation. It is.
It is not a justification for giving someone $30 million. The guys in the locker room like him. Give me a break. This is not show friends. This is show business.
Like, so are we gonna ignore Tee Higgins' production as well? Because
no,
I think that's
he's a really good football player. And to your point,
that speaks about the contract. As to why they gave him the contract.
He's still going to get the contract. If they trade him to Carolina, they were going to give him $1 billion. He was still going to get his money. Like, if you're a good player, like I have probably made in my life the same argument about you have to reward your best players because of the locker room. The reality is that's not true, because if you're a good player, you're going to get paid either in Green Bay or in Cincinnati or somewhere else. So it really doesn't matter. And the players care less than you think about, oh, it's Cincinnati. Oh, it's Green Bay. No, where they're getting the most money, they will be happy. That is the reality of this business. And so if Tee Higgins had gone to Carolina and they gave him $35 million a year, guess what? He would have been happy. And guess what the tweets would have been in Carolina? We're so glad that he's here. Like, but because the Bengals wanted to do it, that's not a justification. I want to do a lot of things. I would love to go right now and go to the bar and have a whiskey. That's not a good reason for me to do it. I have responsibilities. I have other things to do. And so I can't just all the time, like, I want to do this thing. That's not a reason to do something. You have to have a justification. And you have not given me the justification. Football.
But let me be very clear. Let me be even more clear. Peter, and hopefully we could do this without interrupting each other. I feel like this is a presidential debate right now. You do not like the response I've given, but what I'll say is Tee Higgins' production is why he's back in Cincinnati. What he brings to the offense is why he's back in Cincinnati, right? Being a locker room leader is why he's back in Cincinnati. And another thing from a locker room morale standpoint is the reason why he's back in Cincinnati. And one of the biggest points why he's back in Cincinnati is because of the agent change. Those are reasons why he's back here. Listen to me.
But you're
Peter,
explaining
Peter, hear me out. Even in doing that, the Cincinnati Bengals still have upwards to $30 million in cap space.